My name is Norah Sitati. I work with East African Communication Organization as a Liaison Manager, Human Resources and Administration. Thank you.
My name is Caroline Wamala Larsson. I'm the Director of SPIDER, which stands for Swedish Programme for ICT in Developing Regions. We're based here in Stockholm and have for the past 20 years been working with digital transformation that the tagline is inclusive digitalization that benefits all.
How is East African Communications Organization, EACO, using inclusivity as an instrument of digital transformation?
Would you like to unpack that aspect for us?
Oh, thank you, Caroline. At EACO, we are implementing the strategic plan 2023 to 2028, and one of our goals is inclusivity. In this, we mean that we want to bridge the digital divide, where we bring everyone on board, people who are in the urban areas, people who are in the rural areas, the aspect of gender, both women and men, to be digitally empowered. And therefore we have activities that cut across all these factors to have everyone on board, so that the whole community is digitally empowered.
How can regulators ensure that digital inclusion efforts effectively address gender disparities and empower marginalized communities, especially in the context of Sub-Saharan Africa?
If I put on my researcher hat, first and foremost, I can't keep emphasizing how critical data is in the journey towards addressing disparities. If we're talking about rural area populations, if we're talking about informal settlement communities, we're talking about women, we're talking about persons living with disabilities, data is key to providing the needed evidence in order to, bring about action. It's so critical to have that data. And I often, in the workshops that I hold around this topic, I often emphasize just how much data African countries are sitting with in terms of beginning to work with these questions. So one of the first things that I would encourage regulators to consider is look at the data that is already there. How and what should we do based on that data and the evidence that it's giving us in order to begin to address these disparities? Because the facts speak for themselves. Once you have the data, it opens up the opportunity to begin a conversation around the issue. So data is key, data is gold, data is king.
Why do we want inclusion? I
often argue that we live in an economy where we measure things on GDPs, GNPs and whatnot, and it makes financial and economic sense for everybody to have that access, in the sense that not only are we losing out on a market that could contribute to the growth of this sector, but we are effectively excluding people who could participate in the digital economy if they're just given that access. And if we have the numbers, if we have the statistics that show us that a certain group or community is actually not using the services that would contribute to not only addressing the disparities, but empowering them and bringing about transformation in their lives, we need to do something about that, because it not only makes financial and economic sense, it empowers the individuals and eventually an entire community.
What are the main barriers to achieving inclusion and digitalization, and can regulators help to alleviate these barriers?
Some of the barriers are, in terms of how our societies are structured, how they order the lives of the communities and the individuals that find themselves in. And many of these structures are around the notion of gender, around the notion of age, around the notion of class, the notion of where you're located geographically. So these structures, can determine, for example, just what resources you have access to and how much you can actually expend when it comes to whatever opportunities that you're looking to, utilize and so forth. In terms of what regulators could actually do, it's not something, and I often say this isn't an effort that can be taken on solo. They certainly need a multi-sectoral, multi-stakeholder approach. You need to bring on board private sector, you need to bring on academic institutions, bring in ministries and so forth, because digital cuts across all of these, and many of them have the expertise that maybe the regulators could benefit from. So regulators certainly need to work with this, but it shouldn't solely be on them to address this disparities. It should be something that they engage in together with other actors who are similarly invested in ensuring that these gaps are, addressed, reduced, shrunk.
Yeah, and just to add on what Caroline is saying, another way is to have awareness programs,
yes.
The regulators to hold things like workshops where they invite, as she has said, many stakeholders, including students who are just in colleges, and encouraging them to embrace the ICT skills. Also the operators, and then the other ICT regulators, like regionally, when they come together and share information, this helps in empowering and also as a way of bridging the digital divide, and also just inviting the informal sector. For example, at EACO we normally have e-waste workshop annually, and the informal sector is involved, the recyclers. We bring them on board, and this helps a lot. The interaction, the sharing experiences. These are just some of the ways the digital divide can be dealt with.
I totally agree with you, Norah, on that, because it depends on who's sitting at the decision table on contributing to the solutions, because somebody else is defining the problem and the solutions, and the community that the solution is supposed to be targeting isn't on the table to contribute their own realities or what they feel could be a way to address the issues that are, transpiring with them. So it's critical that we look at who's sitting at the table, the decision-making table. So if we're talking about the youth, we're talking about women, we're talking about persons with living with disabilities, we are talking about service sector, various, demographics that should definitely be represented in some way, so that they're part of the conversation. In that, okay, what is it that hinders you from gaining access to, digital financial services, as an example? What is it that hinders you from using, some of these solutions that are out there? And once we have them on the table, we can have a meaningful conversation towards realizing solutions together, collectively. I think it's really imperative that solutions are co-created with the communities.
Does diversity add anything to the level of innovation in a country or region?
It's very powerful to have diverse teams, because everybody has a different worldview, a different approach to how a solution can be generated, so to say.
True. And even in the same aspect of a diversity, men and women, the way we look at things, we have different perspectives, and also, as Caroline mentioned, the demographics, where we come from, we have different mindsets, and when we bring all this together, they contribute to innovation a great deal. Yes.